The people of Enugu North Senatorial Zone have risen and intensified efforts towards the realization of the appointment of an indigenous Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, irrespective of who the cap fits. Rising from a town hall meeting of the zone, Nsukka Town Union resolved to be more united in the struggle for an indigenous Vice Chancellor of the university, which was sited on the soft green hills of Nsukka in 1960. And ever since then, the Vice Chancellorship position continued to elude the people in spite of all efforts made in the recent past for the zone to produce an indigenous Vice Chancellor, as incumbent Vice Chancellor Professor Benjamin Zumba winds up his tenure in June this year. So joining us now is Chief Okwesilieze Nwodo, former governor of Enugu State and former president of the Alumni Association. Great to have you, sir. Why this push for indigenous VC? I mean, somebody will have thought that it's a university, so let any VC that is competent enough, irrespective of area he comes from, should be there. So why this push? Some people will argue that it's quite nativist. Why this push?
Yes, Rufai, I think you are very correct. The normal thing in the academic environment of a university is to appoint a Vice Chancellor on merits from any part of the world. That is the right thing to do. You look for the best candidates from any part of the globe. And that happened when the University of Nigeria was founded. You recall that it was through the efforts of Nnamdi Azikiwe, then Premier of Eastern Nigeria, in collaboration with the University of Michigan in the United States of America. 1955, that was when the university was conceived, but admitted students in 1960. And the first Vice Chancellor was from the United States of America. Now, he was also succeeded by Glenn Taggart, also from America. And this set the standard for Nsukka, very high standard. And the indigenous Nigerian Vice Chancellors that succeeded them were extremely, extremely brilliant professors. Professor Cordlinye, Professor Ndili, Professor, you name it, Njoku, and so on and so forth. And they have also done very well. But you see, I had an experience when somebody from Enugu State was acting Vice Chancellor and had been a Deputy Vice Chancellor in University of Technology in Owerri. And he applied for the position of Vice Chancellor. And he informed me. And when I lobbied for him to be appointed, there was a stiff opposition from Owerri, that's Imo State, that they can never have a Vice Chancellor who is not from their state. And in spite of his qualifications and having risen from lecturer to professor and Deputy Vice Chancellor, he could not be appointed. So that is exactly what is happening in our country. If you check all the federal universities in Nigeria, the Vice Chancellors not only come from the states, but from the geographical location of the university. And this is true for over 90% of our federal universities. Now, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, was the first indigenous university to be built in Nigeria. And as I said, started admitting students in 1960. At that time, University of Ibadan was just a university college of the London University. It was in 1962 that it became an indigenous university in Nigeria. Now, going down 64 years, from the time Nsukka was founded, Nobody from our senatorial zone has been Vice Chancellor. And our people are beginning to feel that this is a form of marginalization. Because as I speak, our senatorial zone has over 200 professors. And in the last 4 efforts to find a Vice Chancellor, they have come second on the list. In fact, one of them who came second later on became Vice Chancellor of Enugu State University of Science and Technology. So it's not that they are not qualified enough to be Vice Chancellors, but somehow it has eluded us. And we have, as a host community, cooperated with all the Vice Chancellors that have been there. But our people are beginning to feel, is it after 100 years of existence that they become Vice Chancellor?
All right, Chief Nwodo.
So the agitation that, yes, after 64 years, they should try and see whether they can get one.
All right, Chief Nwodo, thank you. I mean, very interesting you talk about marginalization when it comes to appointment of a university Vice Chancellor, which is supposed to be meritorious in terms of there's an interview process and the best candidate gets the job. It is a job that's supposed to be done. So I didn't know that merit had anything to do with where you came from or where you're from in terms of being from the state would make you perform better as a Vice Chancellor. What one would assume is that we wouldn't bring that conversation, because what we're trying to even do is to take that conversation out of national discourse so that we can begin to see people as Nigerian first before we then talk about their ethnicity. So do you not think this is quite divisive? Because if that were applied in other states as well, then it would just make a joke of the appointment or the getting of the job of Vice Chancellor. I'm sure you know the recruitment process in terms of there being a Vice Chancellor. I hear you say that, they've come only second. Is it that perhaps we should look at the qualifications of the professors from your state so that by merit, when they go for the interview to get that job, they can then be appointed as Vice Chancellor?
Okay, I if you listen to me, I started by saying that Vice Chancellors ought to be appointed by merit. And that is what should be the order of the day. But we find that in our country, it has not been so. Vice Chancellors, as I said, in almost 90% of federal universities come from their geographical area. And if for one particular university for 64 years, they have not had that chance, you can't blame the people for protesting and saying, hey, please look in our direction for once. I can tell you also that, as I said, in the last 4 efforts to find a Vice Chancellor, the people of that senatorial zone have consistently come second. In fact, in the last effort, the professor who came second felt he was to have come first and that he was rigged out. And he went to court. Unfortunately, while his matter was still in court, he had a stroke and passed on. So this is the kind of situation that exists in my senatorial zone. It's not that they are not qualified, but somehow they haven't made it. And they're trying to make a case this time that they have qualified people. There are people who have been Vice Chancellors elsewhere. Why can't they be Vice Chancellor in their own university, as obtains in other federal universities in the country?
Well, Dr. Nwodo, this is a very interesting subject to me. But I recall that I once wrote on this subject in 2020, I guess, when the University of Ibadan was trying to appoint a new Vice Chancellor. The same university where the first indigenous Vice Chancellor was Kenneth Dike, an Igbo professor of history, who established Ibadan, the Ibadan School of History. And also, after him, there was also Tekena Tamuno, Professor Tekena Tamuno, another distinguished historian from, River State. And we have example of the University of Calabar. Emmanuel Ayodele went there to be Vice Chancellor. He transformed that university. But in 2020, in Ibadan, the Ibadan people started saying, an Ibadan indigene must be Vice Chancellor. And we have also had similar agitations everywhere. But the question is, my argument in 2020 was that this is a violation, a trivialization of the idea of the university, even when we talk about relationship between town and gown. You are an alumnus of University of Nigeria, Nsukka. That university is called University of Nigeria. It is not the University of Nsukka. So that's why I say I'm shocked. It's not University of Nsukka. And now here you are, one of the products of that university, trying to argue for the conversion of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, to University of Nsukka. I don't get the argument about indigenship. A position of a vice chancellor is not a chieftaincy title. So I'm still not convinced about the argument you have put up so far. There may be well-qualified professors from the town of Nsukka who are teaching in University of Nigeria. But the decision about the leadership of the university, I don't think should be taken by the community. It should be taken by the Senate with the ratification of the visitor to the university. Are you asking for an amendment to the law?
We're not asking for an amendment to the law, Ruben. I don't think that you get the point we're making here. We are not saying that University of Nigeria should become University of Nsukka, not at all. And let me just recall history. I don't think that there is any university in Nigeria that has the landmass of University of Nigeria. Because when that university was established, fortunately, my father was in the House of Assembly in Eastern Nigeria. And there were people who opposed the siting of the university at Nsukka as proposed by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. One of the fiercest opponents was Honorable Mbadiwe. And Mbadiwe said, how can you say that your degree is BSc Nsukka? Where is Nsukka in the map of Nigeria? But my father led a parliamentary delegation to show them the site that Nsukka was donating for the university. And the communities that occupy that area just asked the government to take as much as they like. In fact, it took quite some time before survey beacons were established because the people just gave their land freely. They wanted the development that Zik was bringing to Nsukka. So we have been a community that welcomed the university, welcomed the best academicians to head the university and cooperated with them. You have said the trend that happened in Ibadan. Ruben, this is all over the place. This is not the first time that the local community is asking for this favor. And this is the first time that a community that has hosted a university for 64 years is asking for this concession. Other universities that have existed for 10, 15, 20 years are insisting on this. So when our people don't agitate, it's like if something is wrong with us. Why don't people agitate? Is it that you have no manpower for this position? We have. So we're just appealing as others have appealed. But there's no way you can look at over 200 professors from that area and you won't find one good enough. And they have performed very well in all the competitive interviews. that have taken place.
Okay, sir. Just for purposes of clarification, who is this professor from Nsukka who has signified interest in the position of vice chancellorship, who thinks that it is better for him to go and mobilize chiefs from his community to get that position rather than to speak to his colleagues and rely on his own assessment by members of Senate who will elect him following due process? Who is that candidate that the community is fighting for and also campaigning for in the media, where we have no powers to elect a vice chancellor, a short list for the University of Nigeria?
Well, you and I know that that campaign is, at best, is a moral issue by people who feel it is our, please look in our direction. But that is not the procedure for getting a vice chancellor.
Okay.
All that people are trying to do is trying to call an attention to a wish of a people who have hosted the university for 64 years. They're just calling attention to that wish. But they're not going to change the procedure by which the appointment is made. They cannot do that.
Okay, so the argument about this is that what your assertions you're pushing is quite very nativist, and it's contrary to a One Nigeria spec, a One Nigeria developmental spec. And that's the pushback a lot of people, I've been getting a lot of messages here. That's what they're saying. That is contrary, that is nativist, that is about a certain senatorial zone alone as against the competence of the person. You talked about the fact that some vice chancellor was disgruntled, went to court and said he was taken out of the equation, he was cheated. He could have sorted that out without him being from that certain region. And this will lead me to another question about the statement you were credited of making recently, that the Igbos, your tribal group, built the whole country. And some people have been contesting that and saying, yes, we appreciate the performance, of the Igbos as regards building, some segments of Nigeria, but it was a collective build. Other tribal groups too helped. So people are taken aback by this regional, nativist sentiments that somebody like you that has seen it all in Nigeria should be bringing people together, should be saying, though tribes and tongues may differ, whoever becomes, as long as there is development in Nsukka town, because you keep saying we don't have a vice chancellor from Nsukka, but the truth is, or the senatorial district, the truth is that school, the reason why we know Nsukka today is because of that university. So it's brought development, it's brought awareness. But why will somebody like you be in the vanguard of things like this? That's what people are asking.
Yeah. I will always say to you, I am a politician. As a politician, I represent a constituency. And I have no apology when my constituency has something to put forward to government and I shy away from it. I will not. Whether it is my hometown, whether it's my local government wanting something in Enugu State that they deserve, or whether it's my senatorial zone wanting something in Enugu State they deserve, or in Nigeria, or whether it's my state wanting something they deserve in Nigeria. And for Nigeria, I would always, always, always stand for equity, justice, and transparency for everybody, for all Nigerians, a level playing ground. And in fact, that is what got me into trouble when I was national chairman of PDP. I said that a lot of leaders had been produced through the back door, and I was going to throw open the front door and provide a level playing ground. No godfathers, no godmothers. We want quality leadership, merit. That's what I want for our country. But when, as I said, universities that are 10, 20, 25 years old are insisting that that vice chancellors come from their location. Why would you blame people who have hosted a university for 64 years also wanting a vice chancellor
but
from
somebody
their place?
will have, sorry to cut you, come in, sir.
And
Somebody
if I
will have
don't
expected
champion-
you,
if I don't-
somebody would have
Sorry.
expected you to denounce such calls and say it is wrong for them to do that in the interest of national development, not now say because they are calling and clamoring, you too must clamor for a nativist assertion. Somebody will have expected you in your frame to denounce them and say, I abhor what they have said, rather than say, because some people, because invariably what you're saying, sir, is if I put my hand in fire today, you two will put your hand in fire? Never. It will burn.
Well, sir, we need to wrap this up.
I think, okay, let me just make this point as you wrap up, Ruben. I believe that any group of people anywhere under the sun who feel that they qualify for something have a right to demand for it. Whether they get it or not, they have made their points. And if they have people who fit that bill, yeah, those people should be given also as much opportunity as any other person. But to deny them what other people are getting in perpetuity, I don't think it's fair to them.
Well, sir, I have shown, interest in this subject. Having been a university teacher myself, having been a member of the governing council of a university, having been chairman of appointments and promotions committee, I think that the way this matter can be resolved, the community of Nsukka can set up a university. And if the community sets up its own university, University of Nsukka, the community can enjoy the freedom of appointing only Nsukka vice chancellors and can even say only Nsukka children and relations can attend the university. That will solve the problem. And that will be perfectly fine. All the people who are complaining would not complain. But in any case, that's up to the community. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on The Morning Show.